So, hello there everyone and welcome, it is Aniran here, and today it is time for me to bring you a very chilled and laid back episode of Wimbledon Career to sort of counterbalance the extremely all over the shop one that we just had, which went through the entirety of Season 3. Spoiler alerts, I'll leave the link in the top right of the screen to that episode which took you through the entirety of the season, but I'm sure you may well know by now, we were obviously promoted as champions from the Championship, and we are now going to be playing our football in the Premier League next season. This video specifically is just going to be a review of season number 3, because I wouldn't have done it too much justice at the end of that last video. It was already getting long. I mean, you guys saw how long it was. I think it's like 54 minutes long is that video. So if you guys managed to make it through that entire video, props to you, because I understand it's just ridiculous and it took ages to record, so I hope you guys did enjoy it. Today I'm literally going to be just quickly taking you over the table, the stats, and who I think were the best performers and sort of some of my plans for next season, giving you guys a chance to also suggest players for me to sign going into our debut season in the Premier League in this series. So here's the table. For those that didn't see at the end of last episode, we obviously won the league by 5 points, pretty commanding goal difference as well, scoring a shed load of goals, the most in the league. Middlesbrough also join us in promotion, which is quite interesting. They make their debut in the Premier League in this series, and then Birmingham, Wolves and Brentford as well as Preston are in the playoffs. Finishing off the top 10, you've got Leeds, Sheffield United, Reading and Fulham, and then Bristol City and Norwich in the top half as well. Underwhelming seasons for the likes of Derby, Villa and also Sunderland, who were almost relegated. Down in the bottom 3 though was Wigan, Bradford City and Scunthorpe United. I'm going to show you some of the other competitions. In fact, actually we'll go back onto the tables because one of them is going to be on this screen. The team that knocked us out in the semis, our fellow championship side, Brentford, actually won the FA Cup. Props to them, making it into the final. They went into the semis, obviously, they beat us in the quarters, so they went into the semis, beat Burnley of the Premier League, and then beat Brighton in the final. How on earth we ended up with a Final Four in the FA Cup of Brentford, Burnley, Brighton and West Brom will always cease to be a mystery, but it is what it is. There you go, 2-1 victory for Brentford. Over in the Carabao Cup, it was just as mental. Two teams, again, you wouldn't expect in the final, and Brighton absolutely slapped silly Huddersfield 5-0 in the final. Goodness gracious me. Championship playoffs we've also had as well. I didn't even think to check this, actually. Brentford, they lost out on the final they really needed to win, and it's Wolves who will get promoted along with ourselves and Middlesbrough, which is quite cool. We've obviously seen pre-season. The Cup of Europe was won by Bayern Munich. You'll see the Champions League in a second when it eventually loads that competition up, and that was won by Atletico Madrid on penalties over Barcelona. And then the final thing we'll check in terms of the tournaments is the Europa League, and I'm sure we'll get to that in a moment. I have pressed RT, but it's taking about 6 years to actually get there. That was won by Sporting Lisbon, again on penalties, this time over Manchester United. Now, next thing, the top scorers and all that jazz. Hugill, who I mentioned in that final game of the season against Preston, was leading the top scorers list going into that game. If Joel Lazaro or Malambi had scored a hat-trick, they would have overtaken him, but Lazaro only scored 1 and Malambi didn't get on the score sheet. However, they still did end up joint second and 4th, respectively, with 17 goals and 16 goals in his debut season for Malambi from attacking midfield is absolutely outrageous. I haven't actually uploaded the Season 3 video at this point, so I don't know whether he was voted Player of the Year. If he was, congratulations to him. You can see there the rest of the top goal scorers list. Silva Lopez as well, making it in here with 12 goals to his name, and that is it for top scorers. Assists-wise, Malambi, top of that, joint top in the league overall with 8, along with Josh Vela and Windass from Leeds. Alex Sorloth didn't get into the top scorers list despite it being our record signing, but he actually got 7 assists in the season, which is joint second, and then that is it for assists. And clean sheets wise, Christian Walton had a much better season than he did in season number 1, getting double the clean sheets he managed in our first venture in the Championship. He grabbed 12, and I think Sam Walker might have got 1, but he isn't on the list because Button in 25th is on 4. Finally, on to the squad, and I'm going to go slightly in detail into these guys, including Youth Academy players that you might have never seen before, in which case I'll introduce you to them, and then also the players in the side. So we're going to go through the entire team. I'll tell you who was really good in my opinion in terms of played games, in terms of sims, and who is very much in my future plans going into a championship season. So first of all, obviously we've got the two goalkeepers. Last year we had three, but we sold Nikola Sarnev at the start of the season and Roy Carroll retired. So to replace Carroll, we brought in Sam Walker. Very average goalkeeper, but a decent rating for a backup championship keeper. We brought him in for $500,000, bit of a bargain from Colchester. When he played, he seemed alright as well. He grew by one to 67. Christian Walton, we actually trained at the start of the season, so he was good enough really for the championship. He's now 76, but I am still tempted to bring in another goalkeeper at the start of the season. So if you want me to bring in another goalkeeper, let me know. And if so, which goalkeeper should I sign? Don't forget going into season 4 now of this save, so plenty will have changed. In terms of played games, he still looks very shaky, does Walton, especially with his handling, but he performed well, and he was good enough in terms of overall to deal with the sim games. A bit of a barrage of young players in this side these days. Declan Collins is a young right back, centre back / left back. I think we promoted him actually last season because I remember remarking that he could play across the entire sort of back line. Let's move it over to stats actually, because I don't think the status bit doesn't matter. So we'll keep it on stats. In terms of, obviously, all the youth academy players, they haven't played yet, they haven't made their debuts, I'm just sort of training them. Declan Collins got a bit of training, he's got up by 7 now to 60. Still not an amazing overall, and given we don't play fullbacks, he might end up getting loaned out, but I'm not entirely sure. We've got Jordan Shaw here, and I'll do a comparison at the end. This isn't Morgan Shaw, this is Jordan Shaw, I know. He is a right back / centre back that we promoted right towards the end of season number 3. He's alright enough. He's actually got a very, very good potential as this guy. I think it's up in the mid-80s, so he is going to be a very good player, but his overall isn't that great. And usually, you know, when you have two youth academy players who have the same last name, it's very easy to give them the whole, oh yeah, they're brothers storyline. But I will show you in a minute why they are actually genuinely brothers. Like, it's ridiculous. They are identical, like, in terms of their regen face. It's ridiculous. But anyway, he hasn't played either. Neither has Declan Collins. Barry Fuller is still literally here because he's a hero. He hasn't played a single game. He's now down to 56. He might well retire soon, actually. I haven't necessarily checked that one. No, he isn't retiring because we can still offer him a new contract. So that's all well and good. Barry Fuller's sticking around. Paul Kalambai, one of the actual original Wimbledon youngsters, has spent the season out on loan in Ireland. Dale Fry, the first really of the main defenders in this side. He's played 42 games, got himself a goal as well in the championship. Overall, I mean, this guy's just really good, and he's 22 years of age, 76 overall, grown by a further 2 this year without any training whatsoever. I expect he'll sort of be 77, maybe even 78 by the start of the Premier League season, and he is certainly good enough for the Prem. Really looking forward to using him overall. Florence, or Will Nightingale, has actually surprisingly gone up by 2, because we've surpassed his potential now, but he's still actually growing naturally, which is a bit weird, without any training. Might try and train him, but the problem with Florence is his defensive stats are really good. It's the rest of his stats, which are a little bit harder to train, especially, well, you can't even train physicals. So the problem with him is I don't see him getting beyond 73 or 74. We'll have to wait and see. He might well be a very good backup defender in the Prem, but obviously we've got to remember Michael Hector's coming in. Toby Sibic, another original Wimbledon youngster, hasn't played. He can probably get loaned out, maybe even sold, to be fair, at the start of the Premier League season. Ewan Harris, starting to, obviously these youth academy players now are starting to overtake the original Wimbledon ones, and Ewan Harris is no exception. He's been trained, he's gone up by +7 from 61 to 68 now at the age of just 17. Didn't actually play a single game across the sim season in season number 3, but he can play as a defensive mid, and I'm sure he'll get some game time when we're in season number 4. The main man is Deji Oshalaja. We all love him. I mean, he's just an absolute hero, captain fantastic. Didn't get any goals this season. Played 50 games, no goals. He scored 5 in Season 2. He's got up by +2 as well with a bit of training, 75. Going to try and continue to train him just a little bit to maybe 76, maybe even 77. And then we could actually use him as a starting centre-back in the Prem, which would be insane. Taking him all the way from League 1 to actually starting games regularly as captain in the Premier League. That is a beautiful story. Axel Tuanzebe was obviously in on loan from Manchester United for this season. Thinking of signing him on a permanent to be honest with you. He has the captain's armband, that's just because the sim distributed it to him, but Oshilaja's still the actual soul, and is still the captain of this side. Tuanzebe's been insane, he's grown by +2 as well to 78, so I will potentially try and sign him at the start of next season. Pretty versatile and played 48 games across the season. I'm very happy with him. He was probably the best defensive performer in this season so far. Yet another youth academy centre-back. We've got Jordan Davies here, who is unreal, right? Look at his attributes, okay? So he's 67, he's gone up by 9 across this season, can play as a centre-back and a left-back. He's got 81 sprint speed. It's not all about the sprint speed, you know, you've got to have good defensive stats, but he's got 85 jumping and 80 strength. 85 jumping, combined with the fact that he's actually 6'7". He is an absolute monster, and he's got good pace and strength too. If we genuinely make his defensive stats really good, he is going to be absolutely incredible. So he's going to get trained quite extensively next season. He is the future of defenders, I think, in this team. The future is Davies. The past, I guess, is Darius Charles, but he's still going to stick around for depth purposes. Obviously, he just won't play very much when we get to the Premier League, but I will be hoping to keep him. He's 66 rated, unless you guys want me to sell him, because obviously he brings down the average rating of the side, which might affect how the AI play against us. We'll have to wait and see. Alfie Edwards is a Youth Academy graduate from the end of season number 3, so I don't think you guys have seen him yet. Another fullback who can play as a centre-back. Again, hasn't played any games, might well get loaned out next season. Davide Felicioli and Kelvin Smith, actually. It's nice that they've ended up back-to-back, because they're both signings that we got from the free agents list, and they're both defensive mids, and they both surprised me extensively. Felicioli, obviously, we brought in at the start of season number 3. He was our second signing of the season after Bersant Cellina. Not really that realistic. I was a bit concerned people would be like, oh, you've brought in an Italian free agent, doesn't really make much sense for a championship side, but I was like, go ahead, we might as well do it and then sell him for some profit in season number 4, but he actually plays really well, and this is pretty much why. His physical attributes are insane and growing really well. Like, he's almost dark green on every single physical. It's only his technicals that let him down, and they're quite easily trained, so I'm tempted to, get him to stick around and just train him, because he could actually turn into a really good defensive mid. Like this man here, Kelvin Smith, who looks a little bit less spectacular, actually, in terms of his physicals, but this guy is an absolute animal. His height really helps. He wins every single aerial challenge, but he is absolutely unreal. Absolute tank. Like, I don't think I've ever played with someone who dominates a midfield like this, and this is the same series as we signed in Zuzi Toko. Kelvin Smith is unreal. 75 rated now. Felicioli is 72. Leonardo Silva Lopez, there's not much more to say about this guy. He played the most games apart from Kelvin Smith across the season so far, with 56 appearances in all competitions. He's gone up by 3, so he's now 77. He was obviously one of our first signings, if not our actual first signing in this entire series, and he has served us very well. He was the most expensive player in the series for quite some time as well. Yeah, as I mentioned, he's 77 now, gone up by 3, he's 21. 15 goals and 5 assists across the season, really decent average rating too. Very, very good player. Aaron Bolger, the man that we signed for £35,000 in January of Season 1, is now 70 rated, is the Irishman. He's just a really good player again. More of a depth guy. I don't see him playing, more than maybe 15, 20 games in the Prem by any stretch of the imagination, as in all competitions next season, not just in the Prem. He's a bit of a fringe player. He is more of a bench sort of warmer, if you like, but he's a very good player in his own right, and I might try and train him at the start of the season so he's more like 72 or 73. So he's very good. Dave Mccole, Scottish Youth Academy graduate, another to sort of break through. The main breakthrough talent was Toby Brown, who I'll talk to you in more detail about in a minute. But Dave Mccole was also played a couple of games this season. He's very diminutive and a very good dribbler of the ball, so he's that type of centre mid. Doesn't necessarily have the greatest passing in the world, but he is that agile, very, very good with his ball control and dribbling type of centre mid. So he's quite nice to have around. He's a bit different to some of the other central mids that we have. Got up by 9 through training. He's 67 rated and 18, so expect to see a decent chunk of him in cup games, in pre-season, going into next year. We had a scouting trip in Nigeria at one point during this season, or towards the end of season 2 it might have been actually. Simon Nwapa was picked up. He's got a shocking overall, but a really solid potential, which is really annoying to be honest with you. So I'm having to train him ridiculously at the moment. He's 48 right now, but obviously he needs a solid maybe 6 months in a row of training on one slot a week. So it depends whether he's really worth it, to be honest with you. We have got a lot of centre mids about. We might just chuck him to the Lions. I don't really know. Hardskin's out on loan to Barnet. that's all well and good. He played 5 games in the Cup for them, so shouts to Anthony Hartigan, who was a bit of a breakthrough youth academy player in Season 1. He's a Wimbledon original, but he just hasn't really grown all that much, which is annoying because he's still only 20 and he's only gone up by 1 across the season. Brandon Green is another youth academy player from the end of season number 2. We promoted him then, and he's got 5-star skill moves. He's gone up by +9 to 60. Didn't have the greatest overall, but now he's at least, you know, usable in maybe cup games here and there, but probably still needs a bit more training, to be honest with you. Hopefully, again, like all the other youth academy players, you'll see more of him in next season. One player you won't see next season, though, is this man here, Liam Trotter. The 31-year-old has been an incredible servant in this series and for Wimbledon generally. 65 overall, he started going down. But what a player this guy has been. Like, honestly, we flirted with selling him quite a few times, but he's actually been so good. But we will probably be selling him for the start of the Premier League season. Nothing personal, Liam. You are an incredible person, but unfortunately, you probably won't be taking part in the Prem season. And Zuzi Toko, though, will be sticking around. I know his overall is shocking, and he might not even make it on the bench, which is the sad truth, but we've just got to keep him around because of how good he was in League One and the Championship. Unfortunately, the overall has just deserted him. He plays so well, so the thing is, he plays so much better than a 69 rated player. He plays as if he's more 75 rated, so he will still get some game time, but he'll very much be on the periphery of the starting 11. Andre Dozzell, though, should have a pretty decent role in our Premier League campaign or in our debut in the Prem. He's gone up by 2, had a massively injury-hit season, which is why he only played 32 games. He should have played 52, 55 like the Silva Lopez, but he was injured for 4 months at the start of the season. He got injured in pre-season, and then he got injured for the final 2 months of the season as well with a torn hamstring or something. So yeah, Dozzell was a bit unlucky with injuries. It meant we couldn't train him all that much either, so he's sort of fallen back a little bit in comparison to the likes of De Silva Lopez and Joel Lazaro in terms of rating, but he's still good enough, and we can try and train him in pre-season again this year, try and get him to sort of 75 or 76. Now this man, this is the man. I've mentioned him a couple of times. He sort of appeared a little bit out of nowhere last episode. It came to my attention. I didn't really introduce him because I didn't properly realise how good he was going to be. I have done Youth Academy reports, obviously, in previous episodes. Back in Season 2, you might have seen me talk about Toby Brown and some of the other guys in this video, like Mccole and stuff, but very briefly, we promoted Toby Brown at the end of Season number 2, which is when most of these Youth Academy players came in. If not, they came in at the end of Season number 3. And he has like a potential to be special potential. Like, he is actually ridiculous. He's grown by 7 to 70, and he's only 17 years of age, and he just kept growing exponentially. So eventually I started putting him on the bench, and then he'd come off the bench and score, and then I started playing him, and he's still scoring games. So he's really good. He is really good. We're going to keep training him, and hopefully he will be the first Youth Academy player to properly blow up in this series. So keep an eye out for Toby Brown. And Nguyen, we brought in from Bristol Rovers. He plays for a team in Norway in real life, but Bristol Rovers signed him in Season 1, and then we brought him in on a pre-contract agreement for Season number 3, and he's a very good backup winger. He was in the same mould of Mackenzie in terms of he's very pacey and not much final product, but Nguyen plays a lot better than Mackenzie. Mackenzie was far too frustrating, hence he got sold, and Nguyen has basically replaced him as that just ridiculously pacey super sub who can come on at the end of games and tire players out. But Sanchalina was in on loan from Manchester City this season, grew by 2 to 76. Worth noting as well, and Nguyen went up by 2 to 70 as well. He's a little bit older though, he's 26 now. Chalina's 23, obviously you won't really see him now because he's going back to City. To be honest with you, he was alright when I played with him. He did really well in Sims and scored a lot of penalties. But in terms of playing with him, I think we could probably do a little bit better, so I don't necessarily think we'll sign him permanently going into next season. We might try and choose someone else, but overall, good overall, and you know, he helped us in sim games quite a lot, so fair play to him. Juho Koskinen is the first of the Finnish guys from Season number 1's Youth Academy Scouting. 62 overall, we've trained him by +8, he's 17 years of age, and a cam might be useful here and there. Kimo Joel is the really old-looking guy, and I just can't get over that, to be honest with you. I don't really know if he has any future at the club because he looks so old. It's just getting on my tits, but let me know in the comment section if this bold balding man should be given a chance in the team. Turka Aino is another attacking mid that you've probably not seen anything of from Finland. Him and Joel are sort of from the same category of, I don't really know if I care about them, so they might just get sold. At least with Koskinen, he's grown really well. He has some decent stats. These two are just completely, like, I just don't notice them. I just don't notice them in the side. This is the man. Mani Malambi is unbelievable. South African. I can't. We signed him for £4.2 million, and he's actually the best player we have. It's absolutely disgraceful. Like that Sunderland game is one of the best single performances I've seen from anyone in this series so far, and I think that was the second time I'd used him. He's a freak of nature, absolute freak of nature. Shout out to the guy who always asked me to sign him, and all the other people who suggested him as well. Actually, it wasn't just one guy. Alfie Edwards is a original Wimbledon Youth Academy player. He's actually grown alright on his own without any training, but he might well be going out the door. Egli Kaiser, I'm sort of caught in two minds with this guy because he's completely useless in terms of in-game, but I think he's a bit of a fan favourite for Wimbledon in real life, and I kind of get on with him. He did bits in season number 1, but he might well be going out on loan, for example. Lorenzo Visser, the first of our Youth Academy graduates ever in this series. He's now 69, so growing pretty well. Is the right winger who can also play on the left and through the middle. Pretty versatile, growing well, without really any training. I might try and train him just to get him to 70, but apart from that, yeah, he should be relatively useful in the Prem next season. Dave Walker is another Scottish Youth Academy player. Really good potential on this guy. Looks identical to Visser, the YouTuber. 62 rated, +6 in terms of his overall this season. Nothing much to report. Good potential, relatively okay overall, so he might feature a bit. Bradley Wilson is an Englishman who was promoted actually at the end of season number 3. One of the few Youth Academy players you've probably never seen in this series whatsoever. He is 62 rated, gone up by 2, and he's got a potential of around about 85, so he's another player that could blow up next season, but his overall's a little bit low for now. Lyle Taylor's a bit of an enigma, because he's gone down by 3 supposedly, but if we look at his attributes, he's only gone down by 1 on his acceleration, and then 1 on long shots and short passing. So I don't know how that's equated to him only being 67. When I use him in game and I do substitutions during games, it still says he's 70. So I think it might just be a glitch in this menu. So I don't think he is actually 67, but okay season actually, 35 appearances still, only 1 goal. I think he came on as a substitute in probably 20 of those appearances, so that might be why, but yeah, not a great season for Lyle Taylor. Can see him just being on the bench mostly in the Prem. Erling Haaland has grown by 3, he's now 19, and he's now 70 overall. Again, not too many games, but 21 is still a decent haul, I suppose. His fellow countryman Alex Sorloth is our most expensive player ever. Didn't score a ridiculous amount of goals, 7 in 37 in the championship, and 7 assists is not an amazing haul to say we spent over £5 million on him, but I still have faith. He's grown very well to say he's 24, like +3 in growth is very decent actually for a player of his age, so I'm happy with his growth and his progression. Joel Lazaro though, standout striker overall across the season, absolutely unreal. He's come of age, like for sure. His finishing was a bit hit and miss in season number 2, you saw me getting frustrated with him sometimes, but he can bang in long shots from all over the gaff now, and he scores most of the time he's in on goal, so Joel Lazaro looks like a bit of an animal and a bit of a clinical finisher now finally in this series. He's 21, +5 overall, 78 is his current rating. Fringe strikers wise, we've got a Nigerian kid here called Joshua Ubar. Very rare you get strikers out of the Youth Academy, so I'm prizing this guy and sort of treasuring him. And he's got a good potential as well. Between 80 and 86 is a potential when he was promoted from the Youth Academy at the end of season number 2 from Nigeria, which is obviously my homeland, so I've got a bit of a soft spot for him, but he hasn't made his debut yet. 17 years of age, 64 overall, and currently being trained. I'd like him to get sort of 67 or 68, so he's usable in the Prem. Joe Pigott probably won't be usable in the Prem. I can imagine he's going to get sold pretty soon. 65 rated, did go up by 1 though in the season overall. Innocent Debogo is someone who got promoted at the end of season number 3. Again, someone you haven't met yet, but first of all, his name is literally Innocent Debogo. I mean, what a name. In the words of Kutsi, great name from Innocent Debogo. 55 rated. He's got golden boots as well. I mean, the kid is the kid's brilliant, to be honest with you. He's not. He's horrendous, but his name, his boots, we've got to get him on the pitch at some point. And then finally, Morgan Shaw, who we've had around for a while. I think we promoted him in season number 1. He's 68 rated now, very pacey. Gonna try and get him to 70 for the start of the Prem season, and you should see him, Visser and Toby Brown getting some game time in Prem games. But I told you about the whole Shaw brothers situation, keep that face in mind. Keep that face in mind, because now, look at this, Donny. They're the same person. Jordan Shaw is just slightly taller than Morgan Shaw. They've got the same facial hair, the same complexion, the exact same haircut. This guy's slightly taller and has, I think, a slightly different nose. And that is literally it. It's actually jokes. I love it. It's great. They're literally the same, so they are literally brothers. I'm calling it now. Jordan and Morgan Shaw are brothers. We're going to have to train this geese a bit so we can actually get some game time. But yeah, that's that, I guess. But overall, that's pretty much what I'm saying about the squad. I think that's all I need to say. I can't think of anything else. This video's been a little bit longer than I was hoping it would be. In terms of money left over, we've got 705k in terms of transfer budget, and then we've got this weird wage glitch, which means we've got loads in wages. Don't know why, I haven't done anything, but it is what it is, so that's that situation. Nobody's contract is expiring. I managed to offer Lyle Taylor a new contract after the glitch, so he will be staying for another season, and everyone else is tied down to a new contract, apart obviously from Chelina and Tuanzebe, who go back from their loan deals. So that is pretty much that. There's your recap on season number 3. In my opinion, the best players really growth-wise, performances-wise, Joel Lazaro, Tuanzebe, Kelvin Smith and Marnie Malambi. In terms of the younger players, Toby Brown, Jordan Davies, that really tall centre-back, and then Visser and Morgan Shaw obviously as well, who are always pretty solid, but that's pretty much that, I guess. Now what I want from you guys is some suggestions on players to sign going into a Premier League season now for season number 4, because that is what we're going to be doing next episode. We're going to be making some signings, so drop your suggestions and requests down in the comment section below. I don't know how much money we'll have, but if we don't have any money at all, I'll once again fix the budget so that we've got about 10 mil. So at least keep that figure in mind as the minimum that we'll have. But the board will probably give us like £1.5 million again, as they always do. Regardless of that though, that's it for today. If you've enjoyed, you can slap a like on the video if you want and subscribe if you're new to the channel. But apart from that, it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a great day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.